Fire engine garage inspection, a crossout video by Dangerously Incompetent. In this video we take a good close look at my own creation, the fire engine. You have to call it that because I've used an incinerator on it. That's the catapult that chucks jerry cans of fuel at the enemy or the landscape, and they set fire and there's a big burning pool of fire and you can burn your enemies to death. Burn! Burn! Ha ha ha! Well, that's the idea at any rate. Now the thing about the incinerator is it's one of those weapons that has a very limited traverse, so I thought it would be a jolly good idea if I put some side strafing ability on it. So I thought, oh, I'll try out my meat grinders. I'll hide behind some rocks or some other cover, pop out, chuck my fuel, the jerry cans, pop back into cover again. It'll be great. I thought that. It also means I don't have to come out of cover, turn around, then fire, and then turn around again, and then back into cover, which takes ages and gets you killed. But actually, the incinerator is pretty good at throwing stuff over objects because it's got quite a high arc. And it can go even higher arc like that. You can clear buildings in one bound, mighty leap. Of course, it's a bit hard to tell whether you're going to hit someone or not, but a bit of practice and you can chuck over blocking terrain and get the enemy on the other side. Now let's take it into build and have a better look. So here's the incinerator. It's quite large, and if we press F, you see it needs nothing in front of it really, otherwise it limits your firing a lot. In fact, you can't fire, so you need it at the back. Really, it is quite durable though. I could put it at the front, but I decided to put it behind the cabin and armor up the cabin so you get lots of durability, so it will be defended and I'll keep on being able to use it for ages, not just get it shot off straight off the bat. Then there's the meat grinders, which two of them, and you put them on the sides and they raise the vehicle up quite high. Because the the incinerator has got a medium range, it doesn't do long range, it's got medium range, it can't fire short range. This area here, straight in front of it, the incinerator can't hit. So I thought, ooh, I'll stick a stallion wheel at the back here, and then when I want to fire really close, I'll raise the stallion and that'll tip the back up and that will shorten the range and I'll be able to shoot things in front of me. No, the meat grinders are so high that the stallion just does nothing. It goes up and down and doesn't touch the floor, doesn't touch the ground, whether it's up or down, doesn't matter. It's just too high up. So that idea was out. That leaves us with a bit of a gap in front where I can't hit anything with the incinerator. So I tried putting on augers to keep the power score down, or maybe Drew's bars, but then I thought I'm running out of energy. This harvester costs 4 energy. I'll have one of them and it's got a huge durability, so it helps defend my vehicle, and it means I can grind away happily at people who get into melee range. Still got that gap, no short range capability, but I just have to power forward, right, and get them. Yeah. Meat grinders are quite slow, and I've made it a heavy build, which makes it even slower. There are so many builds that can just run away, even going backwards. You can just drive away backwards, and I can't catch up with them with my meat grinder. I have to rely on them making a mistake, or as they're running away, I use the incinerator to chuck a pool of fire behind them, and then they back into that and start burning, and then they can either carry on driving through the pool of fire and take the damage, or they can come forwards and say hello to Mr. Harvester. Bit cage armor in front of the cabin to stop the one shot, well, try and stop being one shot killed by lance builds. But even if they hit them inside, the meat grinder will take a lot, but usually not enough, and it falls off when I'm sitting on one meat grinder. And being on one meat grinder, it's almost impossible to get anyway. You can move slowly sideways, but then you try and go full speed and you just start spinning. The manoeuvrability of the meat grinders and the acceleration's alright, but the top speed is not very good at all. So, and with the meat grinders on one side, they do melee damage, and the harvester on the front, this thing is quite snacky in melee range. So long as your victim can't drive away, and just accelerate away from you, you've got them. That does a lot of damage. These do not so much damage, but what is surprising about them is they actually lift people quite happily. They're fairly good at it, and the rest of my build, the cabin and the stuff at the back is all on a bit of a slant, so quite often, even if I haven't managed to get my harvester to make contact with the enemy, I've got these in contact and then just side strafe into them, and there you go, suddenly they're up on top of me, and then I can back out or wiggle around and get the harvester onto them. Sometimes when you're in contact with people or with terrain, you'll suddenly spin out in one direction or the other, and getting used to moving around with the augers, and especially moving and turning in order to get your harvester at people and then push forwards to get them, takes quite a bit of getting used to. But melee wise, it's a pretty decent build, and it's got a load of hit points, mind, provided you got them. Provided you can catch them and they don't run away. But anyway, yes. High harvester on the front. This isn't low, so, and meat grinders are just like the tracks in that if you meet a wedge and it comes in from the front, these meat grinders will just climb over it quite happily. But unfortunately, it often seems to get stuck. I've made the bottom pretty flat. I've only got the Colossus sticking out the bottom, and it just climbs up on top. The harvester isn't making contact. The meat grinders are making a bit of contact, but they're not doing much damage, and I'm stuck on top of them while they shoot away at me with the shotguns until I manage to get off somehow, wiggle around left, right. So the high harvester and the meat grinders is a bit of a liability when it comes to wedges, if they get you in the front, but you can always move sideways to try and not get hit on the front. So the high harvester is a bit of a liability in that way, but it does have an advantage. Combined especially with the meat grinder's climbing ability, you can often just go straight up the front of the vehicle or the other side and grind away at their weapons directly. Instead of grinding away with a low harvester, you'd be stuck grinding away at their big old plough on the front. Instead, you just climbed over that and you're straight into their cabin or their weapons, and you can strip the weapons off quite really quickly with a harvester, or even the meat grinders, which leaves them, weaponless, a lot less effective in combat. Then it's just a question of getting off them before they self-destruct. Another thing the high harvester does, especially with a big weighty build like this thing, I mean, the meat grinders are heavy, the harvester's quite heavy, incinerators quite heavy. I've got the big engine. I've also got the heavy generator, the big one that doesn't explode so much and has more durability, but has more mass. So it's quite heavy. If I come into a build on the side, quite often I'll just topple them over, or at least push them up onto the side wheels, or if I'm hitting them on the front, I'll push them up tracks, and that will get pushed. The front nose will get pushed up in the air. I'll be grinding away at the nose. Their guns are now pointing up into the air, can't do anything. So the high harvester's got advantages and it's got disadvantages. I put some blade wings front and back on the meat grinders in order to defend them a little bit. We got lots of APC parts, heavy but lower power score and good durability. Siren, oh yeah, I put a siren on, and I went and got the blues and twos. Well, it's a fire engine. You got to have blues and twos on a fire engine, haven't you? Let's listen to them. Oh no, I turned the sound off. Ugh, oh well. You'll hear them in battle probably. Originally, I thought, oh, I'll put them on to warn my team members that I'm a fire engine. I've got an incinerator, because the incinerator fire, friendly fire, you can't do any damage. You can't damage your own teammate. So if you say coming to the rescue of a teammate and he's in melee combat with some enemy, you can cheerfully chuck the jerry cans at them, put fire on both of them, and only the enemy will burn. It's a bit disconcerting for your teammate to be surrounded by a flame, but they're not going to get hurt by it. So I thought I'd use the sirens as warning that I'm firing the fire, I'm chucking the fire about, and that the allies don't have to worry about it, because there aren't that many incinerators in matches. It's rare to meet one on the opposite team. However, even though friendly fire doesn't do any damage to you, you can't visually tell the difference between friendly fire and enemy fire. It's only when you drive into it, or it's on you, and the damage starts cranking out, and you see the numbers ascending to the sky and your health start dropping, that you realise you're in enemy fire. And although you can't wound your teammates with your friendly fire will burn you. So be very careful when you're shooting the incinerator near to things that could end up sort of here, like enemy hovers, or if you're in a building and there's a low ceiling, because the jerry cans will hit the hover or ceiling, then they'll drop down and set on fire and you'll burn. Burn, burn, burny, burn. So let's have a bit more of a look at the layout. High harvester on the front, then there's the big engine for pushing around. You'll notice I've got the mass limit one, but I didn't hit the mass limit, so that fusion bonus has no effect on this build really. And a couple of blade wings on the front in case things go under me. Everything at the back there's plates underneath everything at the back, just to stop. Well, when you get lifted and get shot, you want to hit structure you don't want to hit. Oops, wrong one. Don't want to hit your vulnerables, like an expanded ammo pack. As soon as you can get an expanded ammo pack, rather than the ammo boxes, because the ammo pack doesn't cost that much more. It gives more ammunition, but the really important bit is its durability goes up significantly. The ammo boxes are just so weak; they blow up slightest touch, and then your build's wrecked. But these things have actually got a good amount of durability. So use these expanded ammo packs. Heavy generator, more durability. I figured I've got weight. I'm heavy anyway. Putting in a light generator does one hazardous generator, or even a gas generator. I tried originally putting a fuel tank and a gas generator in here, and I was relying on the meat grinders to armour them from the sides, because they got 820 durability, and the meat grinders come off. I'm not moving anywhere, I'm wrecked anyway, but I kept on getting blown up, going from full health to no health, and shots were coming in at the side. So I thought the meat grinders weren't blocking sort of cannon shots or something, but experiments since, I've managed to block all the shots I've shot at them. So either there was a hole when I originally tried putting in fuel tanks and gas generators, and it's been patched since, or I just haven't met what was shooting me in the side and getting through somehow, or there's a configuration that meant there was a little hole and the shots could get through. But anyway, I did away with the fuel barrel because I was just blowing up so many times in the gas generator, and put in the heavy generator. So this thing doesn't collect fuel, which is a bit of a pain, but you can do without it, and it means you've got much cleaner lines underneath, and you're much less vulnerable to one thing being hit and destroying and then blowing up and taking the whole thing out. big armoured hatch on the back for a bit more defence on the incinerator, and then a couple of bits on the very light bits on the top, just to help disguise the fact that I've got a incinerator right there. That's it then. That's put everything back. That's it. That's the build. In summary, with this build, it's quite fun. I have lots of fun using the incinerator to rain fire down on an enemy, because in a lot of the maps the two teams will sort of come together but not quite get into melee contact. They'll hang around the corner or the other side of the bridge, and they often tend to congregate, and the incinerator can score quite happily. If all the lots of enemy in one little place and they're behind blocking terrain, you just lob the jerry can over and they're on fire. And you can do other things like blocking narrow avenues. You know, when there's a small valley, there's a small gap between the buildings, you can jump fire down there and the enemy won't come through because they don't want to get burnt. So you can herd the enemy about, which is great fun. But there are sort of limitations. Hovers, the incinerator does very little against, because they're off the ground, they're away from the fire. Even if you hit the hover, now this is a bugbear with me, I've hit hovers before with the jerry cans, and you think, you know, the fire's just hit them, the petrol's on them, they're going to burn and burn and burn. They can't drive or fly away from it. The petrol's on them. No, that doesn't happen. The jerry cans hit them, which means they break and then they fall down to the ground and start burning. But the hover's just above it, so it doesn't suffer much damage and it just flies off. So trying to hurt hovers with these things, with the incinerator, is painful for me, not for them, which is really annoying. And if you add to that slow speed and there's no other ranged weapon, if you meet hovers with machine guns, they're your worst nightmare. They just fly away. They stay in short range, they don't get into contact, they don't go into long range, so you can't even get the incinerator to hit them. So they just stay in short range and shoot you, and there's very little you can do. If you chase after them, they just back off. You've got to hope they make a mistake, or you've got an ally. Try and stick with allies who've got machine guns, ranged weapons, who can shoot them, because otherwise you're stuffed. And then have fun in melee. With 3 sides of melee, you can often surprise people. Take them from the side, lift them up, wiggle around, get them on the harvester. And all in all, it's a build to have fun with, rather than amass great scores and get loads of wins. It's not a high win rate build really, but it is fun and I have enjoyed it. And you'll get to see some of that enjoyment in the next video I do about this, which will be the battle report. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new to the Dangerously Incompetence channel, and if you want to see more videos like this, hit the like button. Ta-ta!